The what?
So in my
No,
mind, you can vote
no,
on the overlay district,
no.
but it's gonna,
That's a, this is going to town meeting. There's not
yeah,
much
so,
point for you to recuse yourself.
yeah, I think that there's not an issue with the text amendment. It's a question of the recommendation on the rezoning of the specific property, which the chair I know also would to recuse. And if there's only 4 of you tonight, you won't have enough. If you both recuse, you won't be able to make a recommendation. So
Yeah,
we'll have to see how
yeah.
that goes.
Better that we don't try to do that. All right, and you have heard nothing from, all we've heard from Todd is so, all right, in that case, it is now 7:02 p.m. on March 10th, 2026, and I'm going to call this meeting of the Bedford Planning Board to order. I will begin with reading the announcement from our government. Pursuant to legislation S 2475, extending the suspension of certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL 30A, paragraph 20, this meeting of the Bedford Planning Board will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. I will next also state for the attendees that this meeting is being recorded, and we have the blessing of Todd being here, so we've got 4 people. So we are now in business. And I believe the first topic of the night was 146 Davis Road. Does someone here want to speak for that topic? If not, we can move right on. Anybody going to talk for 140?
Yep. Mr. Chair, I'm going to take this meeting today. Mike Novak from Patriot. Pam's voice is a little under the weather, so I'm going to go ahead.
Thank you, Michael. Where you have the floor, sir.
Great. If I could just share the plans, I will get started.
And while you're getting that up, I'm sure you know that this is in front of the Conservation Commission tomorrow night.
That is definitely something I was going to mention as we went through.
Yes.
Here. So, as you said, Mr. Chair, we're here for a definitive subdivision at 145 Davis Road. It's actually the rear of Davis Road. Here is the GIS overview. It's a large property. If you recall, I'll show you the line in a minute. We did have an A&R that was done to cut off the front part of 145 Davis to allow for the developable area and the back off of Jeffrey Circle. Whoops. Hold on one second. Computer's having a little bit of a lag. Going back one. So here we have the existing conditions plan for 145 Davis. I will zoom in here. You can see that that's the A&R line. You'll recall that was approved a while back to allow 145 Davis to exist as lot 145A, and we created the parcel in the rear. As you mentioned, we will be back in front of Conservation for an amendment to our ORAD, or our resource area delineation. Through the review process, there were some questions raised about some individual spot grades in and around this area that were below the bordering land subject to flooding line, or the elevation 119, that the flood plain that's established by the FEMA maps. We initially went through the ORAD process, and then that question came up. So we went ahead and took another look at the area, and you'll see that there's a red line on here that does break at this point and continues down, and it's labeled elevation 119. That is the revised limit of floodplain elevation that we're going to go in front of Conservation tomorrow to firm up and truly amend. And I'm going to jump to an exhibit to just show what we did to get to that change. This is just a zoom in. Jeffrey Circles here again, and the access easement. So what we have here is we have a blue line that's the previously approved flood elevation, and we have a red line, which is the revised. Just to be clear and make sure that everyone was comfortable with what we did, we went ahead and went out and got, you can see these purple spot grades. We got about 45 more spot grades in and around the area in question. Initially, we had some stray or individual spots that were below the flood elevation that were not included. So we went ahead and redid this with the idea of being conservative. And you can see that we very much filled it in. And the shaded blue is actually a reduction or a movement of the elevation line off of the property, and then the yellowish is actually an increase in the flood. So you can see that there's two areas where the flood line pushed into the site, and you can see there's two areas where it receded a little bit. In all, there's approximately about a 4,800 square foot difference in the four major areas. But we're very comfortable with this, and we even went very conservative in this area here. We initially, the topo showed that it wasn't connected, but we did go ahead and connect it to therefore have a contiguous flood line. We felt that was the right decision. So we're moving forward with that line, and hopefully conservation will agree with that tomorrow, and we'll have a revised resource area delineation. So I'll jump back to the plans with that, and we can certainly answer any questions if there is. And I will zoom out a little bit. So the proposed lotting plan here, just to lay out the lots, the proposed roadway right away with the 4 lots. All lots have the minimum area required for both total area required and upland area required as well, based on those ORAD determinations. And to give an idea of layout, the dark line, I didn't make it red on this plan, so I probably should have, but the dark dash line is that floodplain, just in case anyone wants to follow that. Again, Jeffrey Circle coming in through here, we're bringing the right-of-way through and getting the right-of-way out of the access easement to allow for a better shaped lot. Slight grading up and down, low points at the beginning of the connection from Jeffrey Circle to our proposed, right away, and then we have a low point in the middle and back up, and I can show you a profile in a second with drainage systems to capture both of those runoff areas through catch basins and on manholes. Excuse me. And we're also taking advantage of as much as we can in regards to some naturally occurring low spots, and we've created some grass depressions here and here because we have been made aware that there's a lot of water issues out in this area, and we've been asked to really try to make improvements above and beyond what's required. So we've really tried to do that. The result of these 2 additional grass depressions also allowed me to fully address all the drainage comments from DPW as well, which has been included in this revised set. The utilities layout, relatively easy because we already have an existing water and sewer line that run through that easement. We're bringing a water line off to allow us to set a hydrant at the end of the cul-de-sac, services from that, and we're connecting where we can to the existing sewer line as well to minimize disturbance as best we can. You can see the profile here of the roadway. Again, Jeffrey Circle starting here, catch basins prior to leaving the site, high point, low point, 1.25%, little under 1.5% up and down, and then slightly over 1% to the top of the cul-de-sac. Very, very shallow, very easy. Won't have a lot of speed with water runoff. So we'll be able to capture all of the drainage. We're also proposing porous pavement for everything as well to just, again, double up on really trying to reduce any runoff or improve any situations that we can with our development. And we did provide a landscape plan as well. One of the comments, this looks a little odd because one of the comments was from DPW was that there shouldn't be any trees planted within the existing easement. So we've removed those and we've added as many as we can outside of that still meets regulations. And we'll have deed language to make sure that there are no trees planted after the fact in the easement per DPW's request. We also provided, sorry, didn't mean to scroll into Zoom. Just an exhibit of a layout of potential, building envelopes with driveways. And again, these driveways will be porous to help, again, mitigate with drainage, and just an idea of a 65 by 35 buildable area as it sits and how they could sit on the plan outside of the resource areas within setbacks, just for a visual aid to understand, because these lots are, so especially the bottom lots are large, and there's a lot of resource area in and around them. So we felt that that would be helpful. So I think that's a very brief overview of the layout. Happy to answer any questions. The applicant is here along with Pam, and we do have Rich Kirby from LEC if there's any specific environmental questions as well. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you. I will ask one question and then open it to others. You're saying it's porous asphalt, the main road and the traffic circle, as well as the driveways.
Yeah, we really.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Porous hardscape. It's asphalt?
Yeah, porous asphalt. We really wanted to
Okay.
to make a very, very hard effort to improve drainage with any of this development. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Questions or comments from members from Tony or Catherine? While they're thinking, any from members of the commission? Todd, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, and I think I asked this last time too, I apologize, but I'm just confused the lot lines looking at this for C and D down below. Yeah, okay, so it's like D has a super long driveway is what you're saying.
It does.
Okay.
Again, the effort is to minimize as much disturbance as we can in the floodplain.
Okay. How large is lot D? I can't read it, I'm sorry.
Sure. 1 second. Let me know when you can.
Okay, now I can read it, yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Todd. All right, Chris Gittens has joined us and has his hand up, and followed by John. Chris, you have the floor.
Thank you. I apologize for joining late. Has FEMA issued relief from this area being within the floodplain?
We will need to still file with that. We're trying to get through the revised ORAD, and then that's the next thing that we'll do.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
John?
So this easement runs directly through lot B, right?
Yep. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Bear with me 1 second.
It's fine.
There we go.
Through the middle. I'm not so much worried about the utility part, but I am wondering if the access part is ever if we ever try to exercise the access part, if that's going to create a problem that whoever owns lot B is going to claim that they never knew, and they don't want people trace being through their through the middle of their property. Does staff have any insight into how that generally works and what we can do to mitigate?
I can comment if Tony or Catherine don't have a comment. But
I would just say that the access right seemed a little unusual, and we weren't clear whether it's of any current likely use. I'm not sure if we've delved into it far enough. I think we might have hoped for some comment from DPW about that.
Mike, do you happen to have a sheet with the house locations on it?
Yeah, that would be crucial.
Yeah.
Well, these are possible house locations, right? Not,
These are,
Correct.
yeah.
Are you not allowed to build on top of the easement, I assume?
You can't interfere with the rights that are created through the easement. So if it needs people to be able to go through it for that width, then you couldn't put anything that blocked it.
Okay.
Does someone have two devices on? Because I think that's usually what causes the echo. Like a phone and the computer. Well, it seems to be better. Okay, just a quick additional response to that is you're correct. These are, you know, hypothetical proposed house locations that could be shifted. As far as the easement, I actually haven't. I'll have to look for it. I don't think I've read the written easement to see what restrictions there are. DPW has asked, and we've respected, that there be no trees or structures within the easement. But that said, in terms of a homeowner knowing, Mike just alluded to it, but I had suggested, just because of the no tree planting as well as the fences or other structures, that we actually incorporate that into the deed. But anytime someone buys a home, you may be aware that there's a title examination run. The easement will come up in the title examination. It'll also be referenced in the deed itself. So people should be aware. And then, sometimes you don't find the plans on record when they're really old, but this is going to be a new definitive subdivision plan that will be on record and referenced in any new deed. So it should be pretty straightforward to a buyer that the easement exists and what the restrictions are.
yeah, I mean, I might have made the same assertions about the Railroad Ave general access easements, for example, which apparently were news to people who live there now. So, I'm I guess I'm nervous. Are we going to act on this today in practice, or?
My guess is no, although we'd love to sort of make sure, my goal, because my assumption is that you would like the Concom to, we've talked to staff. We don't see there's going to be any issues tomorrow night, but we expect you're going to want Concom to act to approve the modified line, and at least some of you, I think, would like to see that FEMA has acted to agree to the map amendment. But that said, we would love to, feel comfortable that the board is comfortable with this layout. Mike's last, this set of plans responds to all of the DPW comments that have arisen, although we haven't gotten any formal feedback from DPW that agreeing that it's responsive, even though we believe it's responsive. So I think from my perspective, it seems more administrative, just to hold off on your vote until those things are in place. But otherwise, we'd like to be making sure there aren't any additional comments, concerns, requests for revisions, things like that.
Not hearing anything else from Tony, Catherine, and the board. There's someone named Wayne Foster that has their hand up. If we can let this person speak, Wayne, you'll need to give your full name, address, and unmute.
Yep. Hi, Wayne Foster, 22 Jeffrey Circle. I just had a couple, comments / questions. One, I was at the presentation at Brown and Brown, and I still see the sidewalk on the north side. Just to let everybody know, there are not sidewalks on both sides of Jeffrey Circle. There's only one side on the odd. So you can put it in, but it's going to end there on the north side. And I asked, and I don't know who would do this, but I asked for a stipulation that there will not ever be a continuation of this road to Winterberry, to 225, to the Old Town dump to 225 in some way, because we're extending Jeffrey Circle. It's a dead end now. We're adding units. So I don't know if and how a stipulation can be made. I asked for it that evening, and I haven't heard anything. And then my last question is, are these 4 houses or are they duplexes? Because the rumors on Jeffrey Circle are that there could be 8 duplexes. Is there any? I'm just trying to figure out how much traffic's going to be added in front of my house. So those are my comments. Thanks.
Okay, a response from whom? Pam?
Sure, I'll start. We did commit to Wayne that we had no intention to make that connection. We're okay with you making it a condition of the approval as far as road connection. I actually, for some reason, thought, I guess I am seeing sidewalks on 2 sides. This board has commonly allowed a sidewalk on only one side, where we would typically run the sidewalk down and around the cul-de-sac, but not all the way down the other side. And that, of course, would save in pavement and so forth. So I don't know, maybe.
I was only saying because I know that Luigi and Lucia 24 Jeffrey Circle and we don't have sidewalks in front of our houses, and we want to talk to somebody before we put them in, because then we've got the creek and then we've got the rest of the side that doesn't have it. So thank you.
Right. And then your last question, the zoning, which is fairly new, but the current zoning does allow a 2-family dwelling to be constructed on a lot by right. So I hypothetically, yes, these could be 4 lots with a 2-family. They'd be townhouses probably on each lot.
Okay, because then you're going to most likely increase the parking situation as proposed on these maps. The driveways are thin, extensive, but total square footage, I don't know if porous asphalt negates the calculation on the square footage, but okay. Yeah, I'm just concerned about the amount of traffic. I think the town may also have to plan to do tree work more regularly, because we had in 2025, we had 2 trees come down at different times that closed off this end of Jeffrey Circle. In 2024, 1 tree came down. I know that's not the builder's responsibility, but we may need more tree evaluation. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Hopefully your questions have been answered for now. There's Catherine, then Todd.
Yeah, my understanding is that the sidewalk, although it was shown on the north side, it was moved to the south side in the most recent version we received. We may still have the previous one on the website, I'm not quite sure. But I'm only seeing it on the one side, on the plan that's on the screen. Is that right?
Yes, Catherine, I was going to say the same thing, that we did put it to the south side, and we're just showing it from Jeffrey Circle through the middle of the cul-de-sac to connect through an easement here to allow connection to the walking trail that exists in Winterberry. I believe that was a comment from DPW that we're trying to respond to.
Okay. Sorry, I misread the line.
No
So
problem.
the center line in that piece on the south side is the indication of sidewalk.
Yeah, the sidewalk would sit, if you can follow the cursor, kind of right.
Yeah, no, okay, I see it. I saw the open
Yeah.
bounding.
It's the right of way as opposed to the pavement, and I actually did the same thing looking at it quickly on the screen.
Okay, no, thank you. I apologize. I don't look at these that often.
No worries.
Can I make a comment real quick?
Well, Todd's ahead of you.
Oh, okay.
Why don't we do Todd and then you, John?
Thanks. Just to clarify, Mr. Foster's comments and sort of reply to that, now by right, owners are allowed to put a 2-family house and an accessory dwelling unit on each lot due to the state saying any buildable lot that can have a house on it can have an ADU on it as well. So just to clarify that.
But that would still have to follow all of the wetlands, 100-foot buffer and everything along with that, because I know I can't put an ADU on.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Todd, John?
We did it again. So there is a second easement on the east side of the lot from the circle up to the trail network.
Yes.
Okay, so that mitigates some of my concern about the access and utility easement. I assume the utility easement will take care of itself, but I can imagine the access easement being a problem. How wide is that easement?
I believe we're showing it at 10 feet, but I can double check. But yeah, when you mentioned the comment before, I thought you meant vehicular access through.
Oh yeah, no, I'm fine with not allowing vehicular access, but it is a dream of various parts of the town to create a bike and or ped access through this land. So
yeah, that was one of the comments we had to address from DPW.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm much happier with that because I can see whoever owns Lot B being much less concerned about people taking that path than across that utility easement.
That was the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, there's an Andrew Cook. Sir, you need to give us your full name and your home address.
Hello, good evening. Andrew Cook, 159 Davis Road. Seems like a pretty good subdivision. It seems very interesting. I think it's especially helpful the fact that vote won't be today, because I was just looking over it and it seems that there's a couple things that appear to would stop it from being approved. For instance, there's under the regulations, there's under section 3.3.2.2, there's no title reference on the plans, and under 3.3.2.4, I understand that proposed lot D is very, very unusually shaped lot, but it doesn't appear to be fully dimensioned as required. So I figured couple, and I believe there's a few other, but I mean, I feel that this is a good time, especially if nothing's going to be voted on, to possibly be addressed before a vote is made. But those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Now there's
Mr. Chairman, could I just ask who Mr. Cook represents?
I don't represent anyone. I'm a resident of 159 Davis Road.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he is queued through you. All right, there's and I'm only going to pronounce the last name, Mastronardi. Could you give your full name and home address, please?
Yes. Hi, my name is Maria Alice Mastronardi, and I am a resident at 24 Jeffrey Circle. I have a couple of questions. One about the drainage. Prior to the new pavement on Jeffrey Circle, the water at the end of the road was sinking, and so there was a lot of water accumulating on that side of the road. And the DPW, so there is no drainage system on Jeffrey Circle on this side. The last drainage is at, approximately at Madeleine, so there is no drainage. And so DPW, when they placed the new pavement, regraded the road so that drains properly outside, away from our house. Now, my question is I'm wondering if the catch basin is enough to collect all the additional water that is coming from the new subdivision, because I mean it is a lot. And why you didn't consider a drainage system towards Davis, for example, or towards other areas? And then the other question that I have during construction, I'm wondering how the road is going to support all the construction vehicles, because the new road is pretty much, the new grading is pretty much what is draining the road at the moment. Like what's guaranteeing that the water is not coming into our property. It's the new grading. The other question that I have is about safety and emergency vehicle in this road. I remember during the last meeting that you mentioned that the new road will be narrow and will be narrower than usual, and the cul-de-sac will be longer, will make it longer than the existing regulation. So I am wondering how the safety will be guaranteed. As Wayne mentioned, we had 2 trees falling down in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood with Jeffrey Circle was pretty much cut off with the 2 trees. And then, so how emergency will be guaranteed, including during construction time. Thank you.
You may be on mute, Michael.
No, I think I've got them all, but I'll try to. There was a couple of questions there. I think there was a question in regards to the overall drainage in the catch basins. So, as I mentioned before, we're proposing porous or permeable pavement, which will reduce the runoff from compared to a typical tight pavement street. In addition to that, we're adding the catch basins. So it's not just the catch basins that we're implementing to mitigate the runoff. It's also the porous pavement. And if I can jump to you can see that it's only about the first 125 feet of the road actually pitches back towards Jeffrey Circle. The rest of the road all pitches internally. So we're only talking about the first, basically from about right here forward. The entire road does not go towards Jeffrey Circle. It's just the first 125 feet or so. And again, based on the shallow slope, the porous pavement, there won't be a lot of velocity in that water. And then the catch basin should be able to handle anything that does make it to the end of the road. Now, during construction is obviously, there won't be catch basins immediately. We have proposed, I believe I have that plan, a construction entrance and a turnaround area for fire trucks to allow. That was one of the comments we got from fire and DPW, to allow any emergency vehicles in and their ability to turn. And we've also dedicated a parking area for construction vehicles to maintain that access. And that small section of entranceway can be the construction entrance will certainly dissipate any water that's coming down that way. But again, during this particular time frame, the drainage will function as it exists now. So where the water goes now, it will still go there until we get the roadway in. But we can certainly make sure that is pitched so that there is no runoff, or at least try to minimize as much runoff as possible towards Jeffrey Circle during construction. And this will also have to be monitored on a weekly basis because of the conservation issues as well. So there's some safety and some belt and suspenders built in. I apologize. I don't remember the last, I think it was tree work in Jeffrey Circle, something along that line. And
no, it was about. Thank you for answering my question.
Sure.
It was about the narrow road. It's. I remember that there is an existing regulation where Jeffrey Circle is already longer than it's already an exception, and that will be made even longer and narrower. Is that and so this would be an exception, and I was wondering why would we still be able to guarantee safety with this new addition? And then my question about the drainage was also like, at the moment the new pavement is supporting the new pavement is holding up nicely, and so the grading is helping the drainage of the road. My concern is that the construction vehicle, they're heavy, they may ruin the pavement, and that will ruin the grading of the road, because the grading is the only thing that literally keeps the water away from our house.
Okay. So in regards to the roadway length, yes, that's something that we are asking for. And the width of the roadway is has been reviewed by fire and has been deemed as acceptable as 20 feet wide. And in regards to any construction related issues with Jeffrey Circle, I'm sure, Dave, I'm sure you're willing to make sure that I'm sorry, I'm asking the applicant, Dave, to speak on that I'm sure there'll be, if there's any issues, they'll be taken care of.
Yeah,
Thank you.
can I address that?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is David. So, yeah, so all of our parking and everything will be on site, well within the site. So there won't be any cars or anything parked on Jeffrey Circle as it currently sits. And I just wanted to make a couple quick comments about just the meeting, kind of a couple things that Wayne had said. So when we met with some of the abutters to go over the plan, one of the things with Wayne was was ending the street at the cul-de-sac, which I was perfectly fine with. And then there was also another item from another abutter that asked, she was more concerned with construction on the weekends. And I assured her and told her that I have no problem putting something in that says we won't do any outside construction, street work, framing, anything like that on the weekends. So I just wanted to let the board know that as well.
Thank you. Catherine Perry, you have your hand up?
Yeah, we've only received some of the revisions and the changed floodplain line recently. One thing that we will need to check once the Conservation Commission's confirmed the delineation is the amount of upland that has to be on each of the lots. It may well meet it, but that's something that we can't determine at this point. So that's one reason to wait.
Thank you. There's another Catherine. That's why I was specific about who we asked. There's a Catherine with no last name that has a hand up. Could you give us your full name and home address, please?
Okay, so this is William Shao and Catherine Shao at 23 Jeffrey Circle. We're
Yes.
directly abutting. So I sent a letter to the planning board. I just want to make sure that was received. We get related to this build and my concerns of flooding.
Yeah, I believe it was. I can have Tony or Catherine confirm that.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, so you did have this,
Yeah.
was the letter that was signed by several members of the neighborhood as well as the
Yes,
Zhaos.
Yeah.
I believe I have it and I read it.
Okay, so I just want to highlight the conditions that I put in place that the board will take that into consideration before granting any approval.
Yes, we will.
Okay. And this is a question for Mike because we spoke directly about water mitigation because my biggest concern is not so much the stormwater runoff, but mainly when the Concord River floods, this area tends to get flooded and into the whole neighborhood. So what has changed since we spoke about mitigation?
Sure, happy to. And to confirm, we did have an offline Zoom to review kind of in depth the drainage and how this would function, so they could feel more comfortable with understanding the plan. And since we've spoken, two things. One, if you recall, there was a small grass depression in this area, and with the floodplain change, I've actually created a larger area. So again, anything running this way is going to get settled in here, and I've actually added storage. Drainage storage or water storage, flood storage all through here. which is larger than what was previously proposed. And then, and again, in trying to mitigate those efforts or address those efforts, excuse me, I added this mitigation here. Again, it's a grass depression, and really what that means is just more volume, more storage for water to stop and stay here, or to come this way and have a place to go without rising around. We are limited in how much area we can disturb within the floodplain, and I've come very close to that number, but stayed under. There is a limit. So I've tried to really increase flood storage beyond what's out there now, while staying within the bookends that we have to stay in for development. So those are the two big changes, along with, again, I'll reiterate, we've really tried to take the water into the ground before it can run off and create any additional flooding or any kind of or contribute to any other low spots beyond the site. We're reducing runoff pre to post for all directions that's required. So that's kind of the overview. So we've definitely tried to make some improvements and try to take into account your concerns.
Okay, thanks, Mike, for that. Follow-up question to that is, I appreciate that you added something up by like Lot A, Lot B, a depression over there. My concern is that depression closer to my property down on the bottom, because our property down here is already the lowest point. So more water coming down here would not be something I am comfortable with. I would be more comfortable if you try to look at options to divert the water where the cul-de-sac is and further out east of there.
So if I could, that isn't necessarily because I'm directing more water in that direction. It's to create the ability to hold more water in that area, i.e. to alleviate any water coming towards you. So that was the intention of that. It's not necessarily something I need to make my drainage work, quote unquote. It's more about trying to address your comment and allow for more storage on our site to alleviate, or to potentially or hopefully alleviate any increase that you would see on your end, if that makes sense.
I just see more water towards my property. That's how I look at it, but I appreciate it.
Okay.
And this is Catherine Chow at 23 Jeffrey Circle. We also attended the open house at Brown and Brown, and David, I had spoken to you about asking, were the lots going to be single family or duplexes? And from what I recall, you had said that they were going to be single family because it wouldn't have been financially beneficial for you to have duplexes. So I'm hearing kind of two different things, and so same thing with the traffic. Right now we're on a dead end, like we have kids in the neighborhood, so thinking that now there might be eight sets of families of cars kind of zooming by our property just makes me anxious for the safety of my children. So I guess I'm just hearing two different things of what might be proposed, and maybe that's not decided now, but I guess I thought one thing and now I'm hearing something else.
Can I address that?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So my comment was not that there would be not two families there. My comment was I was hoping to sell the lots to do a custom home there. So that is still my plan. I've never said once that I wasn't doing two family or wasn't doing single family. What I said was that I was going to try and sell the lots to an end user so I can build a custom home there. So I just want to make sure that that's clear.
So
okay, I think you just clarified it. Let me make a comment to Catherine that what a comment you heard tonight, and you may have heard this other places, is the town has a new bylaw that allows two-family houses to be built anywhere in town by right, which means a builder has a property, they can build a two-family house. That doesn't mean that they are going to or that they want to. It's simply we've made it available. This has got to do with this statewide push for more housing. So we as a town, we're pressured to make sure we can allow two-family housing. I'm not the abutter, but it sounds like the David is stating he's trying to get all of this approved and ready, and then because these are big lots, so you could build a custom house on each one of them for probably a significant price. That's as much as I should speculate. Now, Chris Kitten of the board has his hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to comment that the two-family bylaw was a local initiative. There was no pressure from the state or requirement from the state that we adopted that. That was entirely local.
You're making us try to feel good. Thank you, Chris. Catherine, are you still have your hand up? You have more questions, comments? If not, I don't see any other hands up. Okay, does anybody else want to speak? If not,
I would just want to mention one thing real quick, just on the size of the property. So, we're doing a project right now that's 1 acre with 14 units on it currently. So this is a 15-acre parcel, and this is probably the biggest parcel of land with the least amount of lots on it in Bedford.
thank you. Appreciated.
Can I make
ready
a comment about that?
Go ahead.
I appreciate that, David. I'll also say that this is also notoriously an area where it gets flooded, so it's going to limit, the amount of development they can do on this property.
Agreed.
All right. I think we've discussed this as far as we're going to get tonight. I will check with Tony if we have any other procedures. Otherwise, I'll say thank you for everyone. Hopefully everybody heard information that was valuable to them. And this topic will be brought in front of the Conservation Commission tomorrow night. And the planning board will probably do final deliberations after a result from the Conservation Commission as well as FEMA. Please correct me if that's not it. Otherwise, I'd like to close this discussion and move on to 229 Old Bill Ricker Road.
So, if I may, Mr. Chair, before you move on,
Yes,
this is a public hearing that you need to continue to a specific date.
that's what that's
And
kind
for
of what
the-
I was asking, Tony.
And for the
What-
benefit of the viewing audience, because there's other abutters observing but not commenting, but the proposal does remain under review with our DPW engineers, so that all your questions about the design remain under active review. And then for those who raise concerns about whether or not these might be a two-family house, what the board didn't mention is that there are size restrictions if they choose to do a two-family rather than a single-family. So that if, they could build the biggest single-family house that could fit here if they chose to, so they might, you might see a 6-bedroom, 6,000 square foot house or even something larger. But if they choose to do a two-family, chances are you'd be effectively splitting that 6-bedroom house in half. So you'd have 2 3-bedroom units. So you're not really increasing the number of bedrooms that would be created here. So even though people might say, well, there's going to be more vehicles if there's more households, but you're really not generating more people than could be generated if it's a large single-family house. So in the meantime, while it remains under review, the next planning board meeting where you can really take this up would be April 9.
Okay, so we have, Todd has his hand up.
Yeah.
And otherwise, we need to, a motion to move this to April 9, I think you said, Tony.
I just, well, two things, sorry, with what Tony just said. Clarifying that these are conforming lots, correct, Tony?
Yeah.
They will be conforming.
Correct.
Which means, other than setbacks, there is no other stipulations for the size of, like, the two-family. There's no FAR or anything because these are completely conforming, correct?
There are rules for two-family houses. In the zoning bylaw, that's how we wrote it.
But there's no FAR for a conforming lot.
There is an
Yes,
FAR
yes.
in the footprint restriction for two-family houses.
I apologize. I forgot about that. I thought that was only for conforming. For non-conforming. Sorry.
No.
All right. Apologies. And then I just wanted to clarify or get clarification on the FEMA comment. I don't know how quickly FEMA comments, and Mr. Chair, are we going to wait for them, or is that, that's usually fast? I just don't know because that was stated.
Well, I think what we're doing is moving to continue this to the April 9 meeting. Between now and then, the applicant will notify us if they feel fully prepared to be in front of us. If that's all true, then I would, will the applicant agree to continuing this hearing to the April 9th meeting of the planning board?
Yes, we would like to continue.
Okay. All right, I need a motion from a member of the board to move the hearing for 145 Davis Road subdivision plan to the April 9, 2026 meeting of the Bedford Planning Board.
So moved.
Thank you, John. And a second? Thank you from Dawn. And roll call vote in that order. John?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Remote participant Chris?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right. So we will see or hear from many of you in about a month or so. In between, there's town meeting, town elections, and all sorts of stuff. And the CONSCOM meeting tomorrow night. I will see some of you tomorrow night. Yeah, I think I recognize you, Rich. I may be seeing you tomorrow night. All right. Thanks.
See you tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Right. Yeah, no, I've read over it already quite a bit. 229 Old Billerica Road, 6 Michael Bitkin Way, request for release of a lot from covenant. Who would like to speak on this subject? Or who is going to, whether or not you like to?
I will. I think, given where we've been with this, it makes sense. I didn't see a huge issue personally with removing this lot from the covenant. But the related issue is what I had originally, when we filed this back in November, had wanted to do 2 steps. One was remove the 2 lots from the planning board covenant for financing reasons and others. But related to that is the anticipated amendment request to the special permit, which would include removing both of those lots from the PRD special permit. They were both designed, as we discussed at the last meeting, 251A is really, other than adjacency, is unconnected with the new subdivision road. It's accessed from the existing driveway. It faces that existing syndicate land as opposed to the new subdivision. It will have a sewer connection is the plan, which will happen when the new utilities come in. But given some of the back and forth in Tony's comments and confirmation with town meeting, we've always anticipated the amendment to the special permit, but I think that's kind of where it came from. So I think at this point, my plan would be to finalize all of the legal documents, everything that's required by the special permit, so all of that's together in one package, and then to make the application for the amendment to the special permit as well. I don't know if Tony or Catherine have other comments, but it seems like we could spend a lot of time debating this, and that's not my goal to waste your time, so.
I think that's a better strategy to try to roll the amendment into the discussion.
Yeah. So I guess I would, if no one has other comments, I would just ask to table this to a time in the future.
Or continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a public hearing, but
No. So what do we need to do?
Get off mute. So we're agreeing to table this till April 9th, 2026, Pam? Or you'll get back to it?
I'll get back to you. I think it probably behooves us to, I just need to catch up to finalizing all of the documents I'm drafting and so forth.
Because this is not a hearing, this does not need to be set to a date certain, so you can pick this up at random.
So I'll just coordinate with staff when I've got my ducks in a row, and we can get it back on the agenda.
Thank you. Much appreciated. All right, next up is 49 Page Road. Is there someone to speak for this?
Yes, how you doing? This is Greg Gardner of Gardner Contracting.
Yes. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, how you doing? My name is Greg Gardner of Gardner Contracting, 10 Holden Street, Bedford, Mass. And I'm representing Denise and Hal Call of 49 Page Road. They've lived there their whole life on 49 Page Road, and their house, they're looking to tear down the existing house and build a two-family, and also add an ADU unit to that lot. The lot itself is a conforming lot. It has 212 feet of frontage and is 52,000 square feet, and requirements are 150 feet of frontage and 40,000 square feet for the lot. The existing house now will be torn down. It's a cape, and we are looking to add the driveway on Page Road for the ADU. It'll be a combined driveway for the two-family existing house. So there'll be two entrances for that lot, and that is, one of the requirements from the DPW. This lot does have a sewer easement on the side, and I know there was so there is a sewer easement on that side, and then also there is also a sidewalk easement that was just given to the town from the homeowners to put in a sidewalk up to Hemlock Ave, Hemlock Road, which will be, a pretty desired area because it is a busy walking path for residents. The ADU that we are looking to build is going to be 1,000 square feet, and it will have a single car garage. The garage will be 14 by, I believe, 20 feet, and the ADU height will be 23 feet high. It's a single floor unit. The reason we were able to go to 1,000 square feet is we're looking to meet the energy code, so we'll build it to a higher energy code with for the HERS rating, and that's why we're allowed to go the extra 100 feet on the square footage compared to the 900 square feet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony?
For whatever reason, some of the details are not loading in this PDF, but so there's the driveways have been adjusted to try to avoid the trees that exist along here, and then the one tree that we initially thought might be a street tree that needed to be addressed under the Public Shade Tree Act on a scenic road turns out to be, after assessment by our tree warden, the tree is infected with the emerald ash borer, and they recommended it come down as soon as possible. So, so the property, even though it's on a scenic road, nothing in this proposed construction triggers review under the Scenic Road Act. So it really is just site plan review for the freestanding accessory dwelling unit. There is a proposed driveway to serve that accessory dwelling unit separate from what is a single curb cut to serve the proposed two-family structure, which is hard to distinguish on the plan that I have up. The other question that came up during our review is that the deed description for this property doesn't exactly line up with the deed description for the property to the right. But the building inspector's going to have to take the stamp plan that's submitted, although we've suggested they may want to just have their surveyor confirm the boundary for this property, just in case it requires any adjustment to the placement of the foundation that's proposed here. So otherwise, the size of the duplex meets the zoning restrictions that we just talked about under the prior hearing with respect to floor area ratio and footprint. And the proposed accessory dwelling unit is seeking the extra 100 square feet that we offer as a bonus over the state the state's protected ADU size of 900 square feet. We offer a 100 square foot bonus if they meet either accessibility criteria or energy efficiency criteria. Those details are certified by the inspector of buildings during the building permit process. So so that's about all there is for this proposal. This is not this. I don't believe this is being done on spec, where the property owners are retaining ownership, and I believe intend to continue to live in one of the new units created here. So it's
Thank you. Questions or comments from members of the board? Questions or comments from members, other residents of the town? I'm not seeing any hands up. All right. What step do we need to take on this, Tony? I was struggling with that. Is this just an approval of what?
yeah. So this is site plan review of the placement of the actual accessory dwelling unit. We usually we would often recommend they try to be placed behind the main structure, but because this property backs up to
Shawshene River.
and has wetlands in the backyard,
Yeah.
placement of this particular ADU makes more sense environmentally to be up somewhat parallel to the main structure, and that's why you see it here. If the chair doesn't bring it up, but the commission did review this proposed construction and approve it at its last meeting in February.
The Conservation Commission, yeah, and approved it. If there are no other questions or comments, then is there a motion to approve the aforesaid project and plan review?
So moved.
Thank you, John. A second? Way to go, Todd. All right. In that order. How do you vote, John?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Next topic is the cottage overlay district. The chair is going to politely disappear for about 3 minutes and then be right back.
So
So we should smoke them if we got them.
So I'm not sure if you meant for this to be a delay, you know, or a recess, or if he intends for member Gittens to temporarily absorb the chair.
Well, he only said 3 minutes.
I apologize, I forgot about the bar. I looked through my presentation, actually, and it's funny the things you forget. But I will say, I looked through my presentation from 2023, and there's a big bullet of ADUs are not allowed on on lots of two-family houses, and
Well, that part was forced upon us by the state.
right.
Yeah, in 2023,
Yeah,
we gave you the option of an ADU or a two-family.
right.
And then in the meantime, the state changed the rules and said ADUs have to be allowed anywhere, any kind of housing is allowed.
Anyways, thought that was interesting.
Yeah, just as we straightened out our zoning.
Yeah.
All right. Is there cottage overlay district? Is there someone special that's going to present this?
Yes.
Or is she fixing her hair?
I think Todd might be.
Yes. No, I'm planning on presenting. I didn't know order of operations in terms of like, do we open up for public comment, or do I wanted to, I've been working on the slide deck, working with Tony a little bit of input from Ms. Brown in terms of some information. I can go through the deck as I have it right now, and then Tony, I don't know, I could send it to you, you could send it to everyone, and people could give me comments offline.
Yeah. This is a public hearing,
Right.
so I think the main point here is to explain what the proposal is and give people a chance to comment.
And do we have to open?
Yes.
Move that we open the public hearing?
For the cottage overlay district. Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Don. How do you vote? John?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And Todd? And the chair votes aye. Okay, the hearing is now open. Who, is somebody going to present on this?
Yeah, I can present. I can say I have not practiced at all, so this will be very unpolished.
You want to present your slides? Oh, yeah, that's right, your slides, yeah, may be sufficient.
Yeah.
You have the floor, Mr. Crowley.
Thank you. Catherine, did you want to say something first?
No, you're probably ready for it.
Could I just ask a quick question? I didn't know if there's been changes by staff or anyone to the bylaw that's on the website or has been submitted to the select board from our last meeting.
I have
I think that's the latest version.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I'm pretty sure we're still on the same draft.
Okay.
I didn't think we were allowed to change it.
Yeah.
We may have had something to the italic explanation or something like that. We haven't changed anything significant.
Okay.
You control the side deck, Todd, so
I know.
what are the rules?
I'm trying to figure out how to share it. I
I
apologize.
know we're listening.
How do I share it?
I don't know.
There's a green button
Yeah.
that says share screen.
Ah, right. Well, yeah, you don't want to do
Or
that.
did you send them to Tony?
No, hold on. I'm almost there. There we go.
Okay.
All right. Did that work? Oh, gosh. Share. All right. Now we got it.
Another skill.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Yeah, so there's two articles, Articles 30 and 31, about the Cottage Overlay District. 30 goes through the actual overlay district itself, information about it in terms of approving or not approving. And then 31 is applying it to a specific area in Bedford. So Article 30, the Cottage Overlay District. Kind of going off Mr. Gittens, what his slide, way he likes to present slides, I think it was great. What are we talking about? Adding a new zoning bylaw section 11.7 for the Cottage Overlay District. Why do we want to do this? We want to provide opportunities for compact and attainable housing, trying to accommodate a range of residents at different life stages, first-time homebuyers, families, and older adults. Part of the goal with this is within walking distance of shopping, local services, community venues, and public transportation, and promotes housing diversity and sustainable development. And if there's questions or comments, feel free to bring them up now or at the end, or you can email me, whichever. So what is the Cottage Overlay District? It's an overlay zoning district which can be superimposed over an underlying zoning districts depending on where it's placed. So either the Cottage Overlay District provisions set forth in this section will apply, or the provisions applicable to the underlying zoning district, but not both at the same time. So the intention is for cottage home projects, and they are subject to site plan approval by the planning board. And one of the big things with this is follow design and sustainable development standards, which there are 3 slides for this. So for the Cottage Overlay District design standards, we have these 4 bullets. The front pedestrian entrance facing the closest, facing the closest street of the access drive. It must have a front pedestrian entrance facing the front pedestrian entrance must face the closest street of the access drive. There we go. Must have pitched roofs, and then the goal is to have universal design. Clarification: that's not a requirement, correct?
I think it is a requirement.
It is? Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure. So
It's not full ADA accessibility. It's a lot of standard than that, but it's a requirement.
Okay. Well, since you just mentioned that, because the 4th bullet is ADA compliance, clarifying what that means for me.
I think that was just a sentence saying that if they were proposed to be fully ADA compliant, that would have to comply with the laws around that. So that will be the developer's option.
Okay. All right. Okay, I will have to add words around that. Okay, so the universal design, the 4 bullets there, grab bars around toilets, tubs, and showers. Door openings can be only between 32 inches and 48 inches. No raised interior thresholds unless they're required by law. And minimize. So one of the goals is to minimize steps necessary to access the dwelling to hopefully 1 step. But again, it's minimized, so it's not required to be just 1 step. Correct?
It's a maximum of 1 step.
Is it? Ooh. Okay. Thank you. This is helpful.
These are similar to what we used at the Pine Hill Crossing development.
Okay. So for the Cottage Overlay District Sustainable Development Standards, we have for sustainable development, energy efficiency, environmental protection, and stormwater management, and low impact development. Looking for help with that. What? Because it seems rather loose to me. I don't know what sort of requirements we have on that. Because I took these directly from the bylaw itself.
Then they must be good.
I know they're all good things, but what I don't know is exactly what it. How do we determine energy efficiency? You know.
Yeah. Where's the lead efficiency, et cetera, but I think the audience will know what you mean.
Todd, you say a minimum of 20% of total area that would be impervious? I think that's backwards.
maybe that's maximum. Something's off there.
Yeah, let me look at the bylaw.
Yeah, I'm looking here.
I'm actually not finding it.
I know. It's there somewhere. I'm looking too. I did reverse some things.
So yeah, it's 2A.
Right, okay, yep.
Use of pervious materials in lieu of impervious materials for a minimum of 20% of the total area that would otherwise be constructed with impervious.
Otherwise be minimum of 20% of the total area.
Just change impervious to pervious.
Sure, I can do that.
I think that does it.
That looks good.
Okay. Encouraging green space within cul-de-sacs and boulevard islands. Passive house design features, avoidance of fossil fuel, HVAC systems and appliances. So all these are, oh, I see, sorry, minimum of two of these, of the following, now I understand. Rain gardens, bioswales, non-structured stormwater controls, and clustering dwelling units to preserve open space. And then for the last of the development standards, there are plantings and parking. So for plantings, again, taken from the bylaw, trees and shrubs provided in the setbacks and within development. So I guess the goals are to have trees and shrubs provided in setbacks and within development. At least one tree per dwelling unit. I assume that doesn't necessarily mean new. That means just
Some of them could be existing. This is the total number of trees.
Okay. Of the trees and shrubs, 70% or more have to be native. And there's no invasive species allowed. And 70% of the trees in the development must be shade trees. The rest can be ornamental. I'll reword that. For parking, each home has to be provided with each home has to be provided with off-street parking spaces. No more than one garage space per unit is allowed. And at least one secureable bicycle parking or storage space per dwelling unit. But the garage does satisfy this requirement. And then we go into dimensions and density standards. So for this, the minimum lot area has to be at least 40,000 square feet. The maximum height of the structures. So these are maximum height of dwelling units, just clarifying. Are 30 feet or 2 stories. The maximum density is 10 dwelling units per acre. And the maximum unit size is 1,850 square feet of gross floor area, which it does exclude the garage space. And then, so the minimum lot frontage is 150, minimum front yard setbacks 20, and side yard is 15, and rear is 15. So that the items bolded are different than, and I can say lower than other requirements in town for single family and 2-family houses. There is a note that pre-existing residential structures should not be subject to setback and height requirements, but shall comply with lot area density and unit size requirements.
The setbacks are actually different to normal development.
Okay. Do you know
The
what?
front and,
Oh yeah,
front and rear.
Yeah.
The side is the same.
Thank you. Then I will just get rid of the bold. Just not go there. Thank you. We will just not bold those. Let's make this easy.
Is it okay for me to comment?
Yes.
I'm fine.
I just wanted to suggest that when you're making the presentation, Todd, that you do call attention to the fact that the size, the height, and the number of stories is actually smaller than the underlying district. I know you just said that, but I think it's helpful for people to relate it to what's otherwise allowed.
Yes. No, that's a good point. I think it's a very good point. Duly noted. Yeah, and then just random examples of the types of housing that we're hoping to achieve with this cottage overlay district.
That the one on the right looks like a pretty big garage.
It does. If anybody can find more pictures, I was trying,
Sure.
and I was trying to pull from Mike Message's website.
I can get you pictures from Concord River Walk or Woodward Village, one of those, I think.
That would be great.
Yeah, could be good.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. I agree, Mr. Hagan. This one is gone. I did look for like Massachusetts presentations about housing. The ones I found are from 2016 in terms of kind of the production of houses going down over the years. I just felt the data was a bit old, plus I wasn't sure if it was totally necessary. I didn't know if board members feel like, we should add more to this. It's more just facts versus much commentary.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not feeling a need for a lot more material. The housing subject's pretty well understood in the town, and they know who you are. This is a zoning issue. This is not a construction issue.
Yeah, I have to make that clear in the very beginning. Thank you.
Just a suggestion on the pictures. You might want to include some that are attached or that have garages, because there are various types that will be allowed.
Yeah. Okay, so add pictures with the garage, you mean? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be appropriate to use something from Pine Hill Road?
Yes, probably. Those are actually a bit smaller than the maximum, but they're within the range.
Is this your last slide, Todd?
This is, yes, for this.
Oh, okay.
For Article 30, yes.
Then other discussion from Tony, Catherine, members of the board?
Yeah, I'm not, I have no comments on the proposed zoning, but just to point out that you did get written comments from two residents, Harold Asp and Molly Pascal, and David Goldbaum in the audience has raised his hand.
Yeah, right. So David, if you could add full name and your home address, please?
David Goldbaum, 32 Elm Street, Bedford, Mass.
Yes, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the one comment that I wanted to make was that earlier up in the presentation, it said one step into the house. It really would need to be two steps. There's a minimum code to the top of the foundation, which is a minimum of 10 inches above grade. And then you have your framing sitting top of the foundation, so you really can't have one step into the house, which would mean that would be 8.25 inches above grade into the house. So two steps would be perfectly fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay, so I apologize. Looking through the bylaw, it says minimizing, so it says minimizing steps necessary to access the dwelling to one step, unless otherwise waived by the planning board.
Okay.
No, but so, I mean, Catherine, you made it clear that it's supposed to be one step. Are we always going to have to waive this because it's like impossible to build that way due to other issues?
Yeah, that's something we weren't aware of. I think we've probably mentioned the one-step standard previously, but it sounds like we should discuss it with code enforcement and possibly propose a tweak to that when presented at town meeting. I mean, the actual motion at town meeting can include some slight changes.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? If not, we could have a motion to close the hearing on this subject. Then, never
Do we
mind.
have
I'll
two,
talk.
one for 30 and one for 31? Is that the?
Yeah, we've got two. We gotta do the first one.
Okay.
So Dawn made a motion. Is there a second? Somebody, don't be shy.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. All right, how do you vote? Dawn?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Aye.
And, I'm looking for it. Who else is? Oh, John. I can't see you, John. How do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Hearing is closed. Now, it's a motion to approve, or I think it's approve or recommend this zoning change for it to create a cottage overlay district in the town of Bedford. Is that the right wording, Tony?
Yeah, it's a motion to recommend approval.
So, yeah, anybody want to say so moved?
So moved.
Thank you, Chris. And a second?
Seconded.
Todd? All right, how do you vote? Chris?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Don? And the chair votes aye. All right, hearing is closed and the recommendation has been made. Now we need to go up to Article 31. There's another, the mapping zoning issue. And that's Article 31. I'm struggling, how do we phrase this, Tony? Do we need to open a hearing on this?
First, someone should make a motion to open the hearing.
Thank you.
That we open the
Thank you,
public
John.
to discuss zoning boards, planning board's initial recommendation of Article 31.
Seconded.
All right, let's do a roll call vote. But I couldn't follow all of the ordering. How do you vote, John?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
And Chris?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right, hearing is open. Does anybody, Todd or, wait a minute, Tony or Catherine have a comment?
There you go.
So this is literally a zoning map amendment to apply the cottage overlay district to the property at 49 Elm Street. If Article 30 happens to fail to pass, you would ask for this to be postponed indefinitely. But if Article 30 passes, then we would proceed with giving the recommendation and then the presentation of this article.
Thank you. So it's open. Any comments from Tony or Catherine? And then I'll go to members of the board. Hearing none. Comments from other members of the residents of the town of Bedford?
Well, should I present what I have?
Oh, you're ready to roll already?
Well, it's more,
You have the floor, Todd.
yeah. And I think, I don't know, Tony, do we have to read in the written letters from members of the public, or how is that handled?
I don't think we need to read them. They can just add them to the minutes or.
Okay.
Could you just summarize what they are, or what they say, or?
What one of them is, about trees from Bart.
Tony, do you want to?
So you asked about the comments that we received that really covered.
Yeah, you can send them over. I just wondered if you could
Really
summarize.
addresses the proposed text that we just went through, and I will send a response to those, but they were questioning why 10 units per acre was chosen over other densities, given that the town expressed a preference to cap the Middlesex Community College parking lot at 5 units per acre. And then there was a questioning why the board would limit units to 1 garage space per unit. And that's clearly an effort to try to minimize the bulk,
Right.
the bulk and footprint of the actual structure. Whether it, there's a mindset in the suburbs that families want 2-car garages, but clearly we've been evolving away from that. So this kind of stays with that, and it's got a very narrow, we'll see as this overlay may get applied elsewhere in town, whether that 1 garage space per unit needs to be revisited somewhere in the future. But for the time being, the board's recommendation is to go forward with 1.
Thank you.
There was a question, and then there were also questions about whether this is more, could this be applied throughout town, not just in the areas closer to the center of town? And then specific to the development and this Article 31, there's a question about whether or not the proposed drive serving the conceptual development would be a public or private way. And as shown on that concept plan, it would end up being a private way. But, and then Molly Haskell's comments dealt with trees and vegetation, and includes an eye-tree analysis of drainage impacts if all of the proposed concept plan was paved. But I believe a lot of this concept plan involved pervious pavement in an effort to minimize the runoff. So, but again, it's premature, I think, for many of those comments, because they're specific to development of the property, and there's no requirement that the concept plan that was shown to this board last November or September, there's no requirement that that concept plan be built. And in fact, I can't even confirm that the concept plan could be built under the proposed overlay district, because we haven't done that analysis. I mean, it's loosely based on that idea, but given that 49 Elm Street and the owner and developer are looking to put 8 additional housing units behind the existing house, the concept plan simply shows, a theoretical layout of that many units on the property. So as you consider whether or not to recommend favorably on establishing the overlay district at 49 Elm Street, that's what you're looking at. It's a property that's a little less than an acre. At 40,000 square feet and change, that means they could get 9 units on the property. And by salvaging the main part of the historic house and adding 8 units behind it, that's how they would get to the 9 units allowed under the draft overlay district.
So with that, I want to propose a question to the board in terms of their thoughts in terms of why we did go with 10 units per acre, when considering that the Pine Hill Crossing, the old Coast Guard housing, is 6 units per acre. So I'm looking for thoughts in terms of if this question gets asked during town meeting?
Well, Pine Hill Crossing had some already existing, dwellings. This only logically just doesn't. It's only got one.
I think more importantly, though, this is smack in the center of town.
And, okay, Don and Chris have their hands up. Don?
Yeah, that was, Pam's point was essentially my point too, is that the whole idea of the cottage overlay district being applied there as it's in the center of town.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris?
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I would add that this is a proposal that was initiated by a resident, and they advocated for the 10 units per acre. So I view it as the resident's preference being 10 units per acre, and that being a reasonable number.
Thank you.
If it had been my initiative, I might have chosen a different number, but I look at the substance of what was suggested, and it seems reasonable to me.
Good. John?
And we explicitly discussed the possibility that if we were to apply this overlay somewhere else, we might have a different density, but it's just reinforcing Don's point.
Thank you.
Right.
Any other comments, questions from members of the board? Questions or comments from other residents of the town of Bedford? If not, there a motion to close the public hearing?
Hold on. Okay.
Todd have other slides?
I do have other slides.
I was gonna say, Todd.
Sorry. I have another question. Well, two questions, kind of, but one in terms of just making sure if a spot zoning question came up, just, I don't know. Does that matter at all? I mean, is that a thing? Does it apply here? Or?
Well, I like spot zoning is usually around a single residence or a single dwelling. We're talking about 10.
No, spot zoning is sometimes used where zoning is just applied to a particular property, but it's only really an issue if it's being done for the wrong reasons, not to serve a public purpose. So the emphasis should be on the reasons, the logic, the fact that you've considered it broadly, and that you're not doing it as a favour for someone.
So you said serving a public purpose?
That's the essence of it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And you have slides, Todd?
I do, and this is probably my second question, but I'll get there. So there's not a lot, obviously, but this is the exact map that would be entered into the bylaws, showing 49 on Elm Street. And then I just wanted to contextualize it a bit in terms of the Great Road is going almost east to west here, and it's south of that, so very much in the center of town. And then the next one is a slightly more zoomed in. You can see that it's a fairly dense neighborhood as it is, and extremely close to the center of town and the other, common areas in Bedford. So just wanted to kind of, just have a few maps just to give people context in case they don't exactly know where 49 Elm Street is. And then this kind of just shows, although it shows just a lot of trees, but it shows, kind of just one more area, one more overview of it. And then, I've talked to Pam a bit, I've talked to Tony a bit about this in terms of, do we show anything of this? And I think there's been agreement that it's like, should go on backup slides. My experience with the town is that we are not given backup slides. They do not put them in the slide deck because it's one large slide deck. I could request that we have them, but I don't know what to do about, so this, and is it, just so everyone's aware, this is slightly different than what we've seen although I think it's generally the same except for this, because this is only 2 and 3 bedroom units. And then don't even know if this should be in there, but this was in the original proposal for us as well. So it's a question to the board of, does this go in at all? Do I try to request for backup slides? What, thoughts?
I would just leave it, this is what I've done in the past, is you just leave it in the stack, but you stop, and then if somebody asks a question where that might be helpful, then you can go back and pull up those slides.
I'm totally fine with that. Mr. McLean? Yeah, you had your hand up.
John? You're on mute.
Slide, when you unmute, and then a slide that describes the density of the lots around it.
Yeah, I requested to Ms. Brown today. I didn't give her a lot of time for what the density was. I was nervous that the density is like 6 or 5 or I don't know, something. And I'm like, is that going to help us? Or is that detrimental to this passing?
Are you asking what the density of this proposal is?
No.
I think if I understand your question, no other lots abutting this are an acre in size. They're all smaller.
No, but it's units per acre. I was looking for that calculation.
I have a graphic I can share with you that shows the density of all the lots in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay.
Some of them are 14.
Oh.
Just the smaller lots that have a couple of units on them, or even a single unit.
Yeah.
Could
I
I
think
just?
it's good to have that information, but Catherine?
Yeah, I wouldn't provide so much detail about this proposed development concept because, as we said, that's not the zoning, and something different could come forward.
Right.
So I'd focus on the specific requirements in the zoning, which covers a lot of this. It overlaps anyway. If you find that you want to show the development concept because people are perhaps asking about it at town meeting, I wouldn't go beyond that.
Yeah, so you just say, just keep these 2 slides in a deck. Versus the detailed slide of bullets.
And then would you rather say proposed or actually have it just say conceptual or something like that?
I was looking, yeah.
Conceptual might work better,
Making
yeah.
that clear.
I
Yeah,
can't spell. Is that right?
much better.
And I don't have to underline it or anything like that either. So.
Right.
Yeah, Tony, I don't know if you could send these out and then people can comment to me in terms of like word choice and like, I don't know. Always looking for feedback on that. But
Yeah, we'll send the slideshow around for member review and comment before we finalize it.
okay. And Pam, if you can give me that data, I'll at least have it. I may not display it right away. I may just talk about it and then.
Well, I think it was Chris at a prior meeting had shown me the one of those apps websites that was really cool. But I actually just went around to the neighborhood and calculated the density based on the number of units on the lot and the lot size from the assessor's records.
I think Chris referred to the residency software that's been made available that will also provide density data of wherever you draw a boundary.
Yeah. I think we need to be careful with that because I think it was used when we did the multifamily housing overlay district by a presenter and it wasn't always accurate.
No, I did one that's very specific to Bedford, lot by lot.
Even if we have a range, in terms of and I don't know if planning can help with this in terms of, it doesn't have to be on the slide, but in terms of like, okay, the max density in that neighborhood is 13 units per acre, and then,
If you don't mind me sharing my screen for a sec, I'll show you what I have, and then I can send it to Todd.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Oh. I might have hit the wrong button.
No, I think we're good. So, there we go. I think, can you see that?
There you go. Sorry, I had to stop sharing, I think. Apologies.
I think I'm sharing. Can you see it?
Yeah,
Yes.
your map is
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
So, I just literally ran around lot by lot, and put numbers on here. So, but I think what's important here, there is clearly a range, but that the density at 10 units per acre isn't really that far off from the existing neighborhood. And other more institutional uses right next door too. So, up to you if you want to use it, but I'll send this over to Todd and Tony.
Yes.
Thank
please
you.
send it. Thank you.
Any more discussion on this topic? If none, is there a motion to close the hearing?
I move to close the hearing on Article 31 of the Cottage Overlay District.
Thank
map.
you, Todd.
Second.
Is there a second? Thank you, Don. How do you vote? Todd?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Hearing is closed. So now we need a motion to recommend this to town meeting. Is that what we're doing, Tony?
Yeah.
Okay. If somebody want to say so moved?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Don. And second from Todd. How do you vote? Don?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Well done. We've gotten through, I think, almost all the hard stuff already tonight. And it isn't even midnight. All right. I think, oh, wait a minute.
We need to do another public hearing.
Pardon?
One more public hearing.
Is that the one on unregistered or what? What's the
Yes,
subject?
yes.
Yes.
So we've decided this is going to be a public hearing and try to, okay.
Well, I mean, we don't get to decide. It's state law that we have to have a public hearing and.
All right.
And take a vote on it.
Is there a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Oh, thank you. And the second?
Second.
Okay, how do you vote? John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So who would like to speak on this subject?
Who will be speaking at the town meeting?
Well, so this came up at the select board meeting yesterday. Because it wasn't really coming from us. The town manager thought it was appropriate for the select board to offer to present it. I did not accept their offer. I did not decline it either. But I figured I would interject that bit of information that we have an easy out.
Easy out, but what does that mean? What should we be doing here?
Well, I mean, we still have to have a public hearing and possibly vote to recommend or not recommend. But in terms of who presents it at select board, doesn't have to. At town meeting, the select board generously offered to do it themselves, as opposed to having Todd do it.
Okay, and the hearing is now open.
Yes.
So, Tony and Catherine?
Yeah, so just for the benefit of the audience, the existing zoning bylaw has a provision that allows for that limits residential properties to one unregistered vehicle. And within the breadth of vehicle also addresses trailers, boats, I think whatever we call a home utility trailer. And we have some problem properties around town that from time to time come up either through code enforcement or police department about, complaints are made and received with respect to the number of vehicles that some properties have been maintaining on their premises, and questions from the abutters have been, how many of these are actually registered vehicles? And the thought came up during discussions last year, and I know Patty Dahlgren's here in the audience and has her hand raised to talk about a presentation. She made a presentation to the last, well, actually maybe in 2024, about adding some teeth to that provision, because we were finding that vehicles may have plates on them, and even if they were not operable or may not have been inspected. And so the joint discussions internally between the town manager's office, the police department, code enforcement, and myself had been about, could we insert or broaden this restriction on unregistered vehicles to also require that they be inspected. And then we are also adding the term non-operable, so that the goal is to allow only one vehicle that is unregistered, uninspected, or non-operable. There is a parallel provision being promoted in the changes to the general bylaw as well, because the general bylaw also may provide better teeth, or by having both bylaws try to regulate this, we can get at situations where a landowner might say, well, I'm grandfathered under zoning because I've had whatever number, 6 or 10 vehicles that qualify under this unregistered or uninspected category, and I've had them since before the rules changed. And under zoning, you really can't have retroactive enforcement, so we can only prevent the next situation. So by putting in a provision in the general bylaw, we are putting in a sunset provision that says if you are the keeper of more than one unregistered or uninspected vehicle, you have until the end of the year to remove the surplus number of vehicles from your property.
And and we're working on the wording for that, Tony? Or what do we?
So that wording is that, so the general bylaw wording is in one of the warrant articles that makes other changes to the general bylaw.
Okay.
The changes to the zoning bylaw are much simpler, which you have somewhere in your background documents, where we're simply inserting the words uninspected or non-operable to two parts of the existing paragraph in the zoning bylaw.
That sounds okay. Should we have Patty Dahlgren speak? And perhaps a presentation?
Yeah, so
Patty, you have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me without an echo?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I do appreciate everything you've done for us over the past 2 years. So what we determined when we added the word registered in order to prevent a junkyard being able to form on any property in Bedford, what we determined is that it's actually possible to get 10 dead cars that can't drive technically registered. So, and we know this, the police were great. They came down, they worked with my neighbor, Tom, Tom actually managed to get every single vehicle, almost all of which have had to be towed in on a flatbed. He did get them all registered. And what we then determined in working with Matt was the word registered is not enough. And the reason that I'm on this meeting right now is I would like to advise you, based on my experience and research, that asking for a vehicle to be inspected is one thing. What's going to happen if the changes that you make to the bylaws require an inspection and a registration of vehicles, I can tell you what's going to happen. Tom will take all 10 of the dead cars out on a flatbed truck. He will take them and he will meet the letter of the law. He will get them all inspected. Inspected does not mean pass. So he's going to get, and I've seen him do this, he had a car towed out last year for the same purpose. So unless we say pass inspection, we are going to be right back in the same place. So we said registered. Tom went out and discovered it's possible to register a vehicle that's not roadworthy. He's meeting the obligation of the law, the letter of the law. The police did come down and go through all of his paperwork. He met it. I still have a junkyard across the street from me that prohibits me from selling. And my concern when talking to Matt is that by adding the word inspected and registered, that's very easy to meet. It's perfectly predictable that Tom will have all of these cars out. He will have them inspected to meet the law, and then they will be returned back to his property. And they will have, and so when you say to him, hey, the rule are, it's got to be registered and inspected, what you're going to be told is, I had them inspected. They are registered. I am compliant with the law. So it's not enough to say inspected because we are not defining what that means. He'll get them all inspected, they'll all fail inspection. If that's the only word that he has to meet to be compliant, it does not eliminate the junkyard across from me or the one that could form across from you next year. Does that make any sense to you guys?
So you're saying the words have to be pass inspection, correct? Because everybody can fail inspection.
But it's still inspected.
No, but you're saying the word has to be, the vehicle has to pass inspection.
Correct.
And have a current inspection sticker.
Correct.
They
Because
can't pass it 10 years ago.
Right. So
that's a change the wording of this is what you're
Yes.
what you're proposing?
yes, I was on the select board meeting last night, but I joined too late to make the request in the opening citizen comments. So when I talked to the office today, he said, be sure to be part of the planning board. Make your presentation to them, make your argument to them that requiring inspection is not enough. And
So, I think we hear you, Patty. The question is, I'll go to Tony now. Is this in wording that we are trying to approve tonight from the planning board?
So a couple of things come up. One is since we're we had also proposed adding non-operable, so we're requiring the vehicle to be registered, inspected, and operable. So the fact that in the example she raised, if they are being towed somewhere for inspection and then brought back, if they aren't actually operable, and I can't say what the police department would do given the I think what you have a 60-day window to deal with a failed inspection.
Right.
So, so I'm not sure how to, whether we need to or should, or you could, as a board, offer to figure out, or to support an amendment like that. I will say, because the warrant is closed, we cannot change at this time the wording that is going to be printed in the warrant. So to add a requirement to pass inspection will have to be a floor amendment.
Okay.
If it's going to be considered at this town meeting.
I believe it could be changed in the motion by the proponent, the person that proposes it at town meeting, if it's within the scope of the warrant article.
Yeah, so, right. So
rather than an individual on the floor.
Yeah, so I think that's like, if I bring, I can try to bring this up with the town manager about, since I anticipate a select board member is going to make the motion, how to work that in, and given that the language that we have is a combination of comments from the police chief, Inspector Buildings, town manager, and myself, and town council. Maybe we can quickly get some advice from council about how to add a feature for having only one vehicle that has not passed inspection.
I would be, and my neighbors, and I speak for the 27 people that signed the petition, I would be very grateful. We thought that we would be able to put our house on the market last year when we had town meeting, and Tom legally was correct in getting his cars registered and not getting them inspected. I just, it's been 2 years and we are trapped. We cannot sell our house, and every 6 months that goes by, we are further and further and further. Our real estate value was going down. Aside from what's going on in the real estate market, in the past 2 years, all the trees have been cut down. PFAS has been determined to be severely saturating our neighborhood, and the longer this continues, the more punitive it is on neighbors that are desperately trying to sell their house.
We got it, Patty. We appreciate it, and we're trying to figure out how to help you. So, Tony, is it possible that at town meeting, we could get the proper wording clarified and approved by town council, and then perhaps Patty and others can make an amendment to the article, since there'd be several of them to endorse it?
Yes. That amendment could also come from any of the board members or select board members. Not just,
just gotta get the
wouldn't necessarily have to come from somebody in the neighborhood. It could come from any registered voter at town meeting.
Would it be deemed less restrictive, though?
Well,
Isn't that?
That's That's an interpretation the moderator would have to make.
Yeah. Call it a clarification, maybe.
John?
So we can't amend the wording at this point.
In the written warrant, yeah.
Yes. So whether or not we're going to recommend, we're either going to recommend this wording or not. I'm going to assert that this wording is better than what we have now. And I trust staff to figure out if it can be further improved. And it sounds like we have a path forward at town meeting to further do so. So unless there's more public comments or unless the board has more comments, I would suggest we close the hearing and take a vote to approve or not. Or sorry, recommend or not.
All right, Chris?
I don't need to comment. I'm satisfied with, I think the language as it stands with inoperable takes care of the inspected and registered but not operable issue. That would be my interpretation.
All right, Patty?
I would just appreciate knowing what I need to do. So when you say unregistered, uninspected, or non-operable, I just want to make sure that it's not possible to meet the letter of the law by getting every vehicle inspected, even if they fail, and every vehicle registered, and according to the law, be still able to have that. So tell me what I need to do for town meeting. I've already planned to attend. I'll do whatever is necessary. And I certainly have neighbors that are going to come as well.
Far as I understand, and I'll ask Chris next, is there's going to be a staff is going to follow up with town manager and town council to see what can we do at town meeting. Is it going to be on a change in the wording that can be done from the presenter or an amendment from the floor? Only at town meeting are we going to know the answer, Patty. So make sure you go pester the planning board, that's us, and find out, okay, what's the final result? Like, do you make the motion or does somebody else? That's what I think I'm hearing. Chris? Chris, you got your hand up and you're on mute.
So didn't realize I was muted. I'm reading the wording. I think it comes down to what the definition of inoperable is. I read it and think, well, if you can't drive the car on public roads, then it's not operable. So that would seem to me to cover the issue at hand. But it would be helpful to have an opinion from town council or someone who has a clear understanding of what the legal meaning of the term is.
Thank you. Dawn?
Well, to John's point, this is the wording we have and we can't change it. So it seems to me like we recommend the wording we have and we investigate how to make it better at town meeting. But right now, there's nothing we can do other than to say, yes, we recommend or no, we don't. So I think we should recommend it soon.
All right. In that case, is there a motion to close the hearing?
Move to close the hearing.
Thank you, Chris.
Just also into the record that we got written comments from Harold Asp on this proposal as well.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Don. All right, how do you vote? Chris?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
John?
An enthusiastic aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right, so now we need a motion to, I think if I got it right, Tony, a motion to recommend the, I've forgotten what we call this, the whatever we came up with on
Yeah, so I think
vehicles.
you have a couple options. One is you could recommend favorably on the article. Well, and also recommend that if it can be enhanced to include provisions for passing inspection, that the board would look favorably on that amendment.
Yeah, maybe it's up to the others. Maybe we should keep it simple and just say, we approve the wording of the article. Anyone disagree? Say
I
a
think
motion
that
to
sounds
approve the
fine.
wording of the article.
Move to approve the article as worded.
Thank you, Chris. Second
Second.
by Dawn. Appreciate it. How do you vote? Chris?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
And the John?
Even more enthusiastic aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right. We've approved, you see what we've approved, Patty, and we'll see you at town meeting to find out whether or not there's going to be an enhancement.
Thank you.
All right. Is that the agenda? Are we up now to reports? Liaison reports? Chris?
This is not a liaison report, but just letting you know that I am on the road and I am going to sign off.
All right. But it's been great. Thank you. Yeah, this was a night where having everybody we could at the beginning was a huge help. So thank you for calling in, Chris. All right. Liaison reports? Anyone? John?
I went to select board last night. They, as mentioned, they closed the warrants, and I think the other interesting thing was they're looking to hire MACP to consult on the possible uses for the for the old fire station. So that process is spinning up. So we're going to basically run a little public outreach campaign and talk to the various departments about space needs.
Thank you. Todd?
And this is tough with 3 members of TAC also here, but as one member of TAC, I thought we had a great meeting, lots of great discussion, and something in terms of talking about, oh boy, I'm gonna get this wrong, but speeds in town. Let's just go with that. Target speeds. But also, we had talked a bit about sidewalk clearing, and I am taking on trying to get some information about that in terms of potentially proposing a bylaw change that would require homeowners to clear the sidewalks in front of their yards. So looking for input on this and looking for data and going to be researching that going forward. So as a potential, because many towns have them, but many towns don't either in Massachusetts.
Yeah. John, you had your hand up. Is it, are you done? You got your hand up again, but you're on mute. Okay, never mind. So the chair will just make a comment that Conservation Commission has 145 Davis Road tomorrow, as you might have heard about tonight. That's all that matters. Okay, given that, let's go staff. Any information or reports?
I know TAC has also been talking about sidewalks and sidewalk maintenance, and I know at least Member Crowley is interested in seeing what some other towns have done for private maintenance or private shoveling of sidewalks, and so we'll continue to look into that. It is much more common in city government formats than in town formats, and it's a common suburban community situation where we are trying to make sidewalk connections so that pedestrian pathways are complete. But in so doing, we're also creating more miles of sidewalk that need to be maintained, and we're necessarily increasing personnel or the pieces of equipment that are used to maintain sidewalks. So, so there's a topic that we can, it will probably also unfold maybe in part of comprehensive plan discussions as well. But we are going to look at some bylaw examples for you to consider as a board in case you want to bring that forward at a future town meeting. We have a meeting coming up with DCAM officials to try to get an update on where they stand on the bids that were submitted for the surplus property at Middlesex Community College. That's coming up in sometime later this week. We have a pre-construction meeting coming up with the Carlisle Road 40B development, and coming up, I believe, on the 19th. That project will be looking to break ground in the spring as soon as the weather breaks. And One Railroad Avenue continues to be hopeful to break ground when the weather breaks. Not much immediately coming forward as new applications, though, that require your review. So we anticipate being able to focus on some other planning initiatives that we backburnered over the last couple of years while we were working on some other housing initiatives. So hopefully we'll get those items in front of you, and we can after the election. Because I have not brought a priority list or the to-do list. I haven't brought that to the board. I did not bring one to the board last year because I really wanted to get the comprehensive plan up and running and not be distracted by trying to also work on some other things. But now that the consultants kind of have the comprehensive plan running, we can try to take a look at what are the other things we need to be looking at. So we will bring up the list of to-do items in April sometime and talk about what to focus on in the next fiscal year.
I think the only thing I have to add is that I'm retiring at the end of this month.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yes, you will be missed. Congrats.
Very much.
Any other, John?
I don't know if we've mentioned this in the past, but there is an active Wilson Park survey.
Right.
So tell your friend, it's relatively short running. See if maybe you remember, but so tell your friends, anyone who ever drives through, who's ever driven or walked or ridden a bike to Wilson Park should fill it out.
And they'll be at town meeting. We're gonna have a table out in front of the room to try to get people to fill out the survey for anybody who hasn't. Any other subjects tonight? I can hope, or does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
We have minutes to approve.
Oh, move that we approve minutes.
Okay, could you tell me the date of the minutes? I know I read them, but
January 26th. Sorry, January 20th.
Okay, is there a motion to approve aforesaid minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, John. And a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Todd. How do you vote? John?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Anything else I've forgotten? Okay, I'll try again. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move that we adjourn.
Thank you. We earned our money tonight. How do you vote? John, Dawn, Todd, and the chair?
Aye.
Every aye at once. Thank you. All of your efforts tonight. See you again soon. And I'll surely see you at town meeting.
Have a good night.
Bell's on.
Good night.
Night, Tony.